Hello, everybody. Welcome to Africa for Dummies, where we keep all things Africa. Thank you so much for joining us on this lovely episode. Be sure to follow us on all platforms and leave us a full rating on our podcast. Now, as usual, before we dive into the main topic of discussion, we look at the news making headlines across Africa. What's new in Botswana's leadership? Botswana just made history with the election of Duma Boko, a human rights lawyer and leader of the opposition coalition UDC, as Botswana's sixth president. This is the first time an opposition party has won an election in Botswana. Why are protests erupting in Mozambique? Mozambique is in turmoil following Frelimo's contested election victory. Accusations of voter rigging and violent crackdowns on protesters. Meanwhile, South Africa closes its border with Mozambique as at least 66 people were killed, according to hospital tallies, in post-electoral protests and clashes with police in Mozambique. This comes after Frelimo's Daniel Chapo won the 9th October election. Frelimo has ruled Mozambique since independence in 1975. And of course, the biggest news headline of this week, a viral sex scandal has emerged as the anti-graft chief in Equatorial Guinea was found, or I should say, with 400 sex tapes. That's the news making headlines all over Africa. Stay tuned with us on Africa for Dummies, where we keep all things African. We will keep you informed with all the information making headlines. Thank you so much for joining us. And now, the topic of discussion.
I am an African.
Welcome to Africa for Dummies, the podcast that breaks down the most important issues shaping Africa today. From politics to culture to sustainability, we bring you the stories that matter in a way that's quick, engaging, and easy to follow. We're joined as always by Zenge, the co-host, Mr. Most.
The co-host to the most. You say that all the time.
Yeah, sorry. It's easy. Yeah.
I'm really happy to be here today, of course, because we got an extraordinary guest who I keep on saying will never need leg day in his life, but you find out why. So,
okay. So yeah, as Zenge said, we have a great guest today. Today we're joined by Ali Abdo, co-founder and CEO of the Ride to 2030. Ali is a climate activist and youth advocate traveling across Africa and the Middle East on electric motorcycles to promote sustainable development. Recently named Egypt's Ambassador of Sustainable Development, he's here to share how we can empower young Africans to drive change in this fight against climate change. Ali Abdo, how are you doing? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, so I think I got introduced to you by Zenge, who was also a part of the Obama Foundation. And so I guess for some people who maybe don't know what you do, and so how did you come from? I think there was a very loaded CV that you clearly have. So how did you come from a young guy in Egypt to an ambassador for sustainability to the point where you're recognized by the Obama Foundation?
Okay, actually, it is a long story, by the way. I'm graduated from Faculty of Education. I'm not supposed to be a information technology, so I started to learn information technology, and I worked for information technology for around 10 years till I became an architect of information technology. During this period, I was working at IBM Egypt, participated in a number of large projects in Egypt and Middle East. And during this period, I was working remotely most of the time. Then I decided there is an outer world I need to explore. But as an introvert person, I was not having a large network, a lot of people. So in 2016, I bought my first motorcycle. I decided to buy a motorcycle. Okay. When I bought my first motorcycle, at this moment, I don't know how to ride a motorcycle. Even I don't know how to start a motorcycle. So I bought a motorcycle and I bought it on a truck to who? So we have a motorbike at home right now. I should start riding. I remember that this step took around a week to learn how to start the motorcycle. And it took me a week to start a motorcycle. After I managed to start the motorcycle, learning how to deal with the motorcycle and getting my driving license, I started to travel with my motorcycle, which was a totally new experience for me.
Hmm.
Usually I travel by car a lot, but it was the first time for me to travel in two wheels. I found that traveling in two wheels, making your sense and your mind in a different status with the world. You can say it makes you deeply connected with the world. When I traveled on my motorcycle for the first time, I used it the same way to the office I'm working on. I'm living in Alexandria, and my
Hmm.
office is Cairo, which is around 200 kilometer by car. So I decided to use something familiar for me. During this ride, or during the first ride, during the 200 kilometer, I have doubts that is the road to the, why? The motorcycle giving your sense a boost, and giving you different feeling about everything, giving you details that you will notice for the first time.
Wow.
For you have been there for many, many years.
Hmm.
This moment, I realized that I don't know about the world. I don't know anything about the world, and I need to continue riding to visit all Egyptian cities on
Okay.
my own. So by 2015, I managed to visit all Egyptian cities on my motorcycle
Wow.
solo ride. And this loaded me with a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, a
Yeah.
deep understanding for culture differentiation, people needs, youth needs, many, many things. It was an amazing experience. I remember that after this ride, I spent the months at home trying to understand and to process what I have seen during this ride. After this ride, I realized that we have a lot of resources not used. A
Hmm.
lot of people need help. A lot of great things people don't know about it. So at this moment, I launched an initiative called Around Egypt on a Motorcycle. Okay.
Okay.
To educate people about their country, what we need, what we do, who we are, different cultures, different languages, or different slangs in
Hmm.
Egypt, tongue, you know. And I found a lot of people interested to learn about the country that you're living in, especially after a survey I made that resulted that 70% of Egyptians don't know about Egypt.
Hmm.
So I was traveling on my motorcycle to each city, describing the road, describing the city, what you need to visit, what you need to see, historical sites, culture
Oh, so
differentiation.
you're putting this up on like a blog or something.
Yeah,
Okay.
at this
Okay.
used to share it on YouTube and
Ah, okay.
on.
Okay. Yeah.
After that, I found that people need more than knowledge. People need development, and
Hmm.
not just a development, it need a sustainable development. So in 2019, I partnered with UNDP Egypt to promote sustainable development goals in Egypt through my rides. As in each city I visit, I meet people, I connect with decision makers, stakeholders, governmental officials. Especially at this moment in 2019, I had two Guinness records. I managed to visit all
Wow.
Egyptian cities. I managed to break one of the most important Guinness records on motorcycles. So I started to be noticed in this area. So in 2019, I started to focus on sustainable development in general with a special focus on vulnerable communities. Most of African countries are vulnerable, to be honest with you.
Mm.
So I started to focus on sustainable development, at least raising awareness about what is sustainable development, what we need to achieve in each goal, where we are from each goal, and why we are still here, what's needed to move forward.
Right.
Uh, in 2020, at the pandemic, COVID-19, during 2019 and 2020, I was planning to launch an initiative called 100 Egypt. 100 Egypt means 100 different story about Egypt related to sustainable development. I was
Okay.
trying to simplify what is sustainable development from real life examples, about education, about sustainable cities, about sustainable transportation, about many things. But, we need to simplify things for people
Yeah.
to just attract them to work with us to achieve these goals. But as everyone knows, that COVID stopped everything. And
Mm.
after COVID-19, many things have changed. So during this period, as everyone remember, it was the only time in human history that emission is reduced and the
Yeah.
temperature, yeah, it started to be natural. So this grabbed my attention to the climate change, and I started to be more focused and more concentrating on climate change topics. Especially in Egypt. Egypt is one of the most impacted countries by climate change. During a visit to a city in Egypt on the north coast called Damietta, during the
Okay.
meeting, the governor he mentioned that this city lost 7 kilometers of its coastal land. You can imagine that, 7 kilometers.
Yeah.
Imagine 7 kilometers from homes, from factories, from touristic sites, from activities, from many, many things. Not to mention the impact on agriculture, not to mention the impact of economy, many things. So in 2021, Egypt hosted COP29, which was an important
Mhm.
event in the region, and this, yeah, lighted things in my mind what I can do to support these efforts.
Yeah.
So in 2021, Egypt hosted COP29, COP27 in 22. So in 2021, I started to be more focused around sustainable development, sustainable transportation, clean energy solutions. As you know, the world need to be more aware about the available options. And at this moment, having an electric car in Egypt or electric motorcycle was very weird. People asking how I can
Mm.
charge, how many kilometer I can do with a charge. People are really interested, but they are afraid of taking a decision. So in 2021, I broke the Guinness record for greatest distance on electric motorcycle in 24 hours. I rode my motorcycle for 24 hours.
Wow.
I was trying to convince people and to prove to them by an evidence and certificate, like a Guinness certificate, that you can ride it for 24 hours. You can ride it for 1,000 kilometers if you
Yeah.
want. Until now, this world record still there. No one broke it till now. Okay, it was
So how
nine.
many world records do you have now? Because I feel
Actually,
like you've dropped like two or three, right?
I have 7 Guinness records till now. 7 world
Seven.
records. Yes,
Wait,
I'm the most
one.
famous person with world record on electric vehicles. By sorry,
You're
and
probably
the
you're,
first
you're
Arab
probably gonna
achieving
get
it.
the you're probably gonna get the Guinness World Record for having the most
Guess
Guinness World
Guinness World
Records
Records.
at this rate.
It is a good, yeah. It is a good point. Let me explain why I break Guinness records. Okay,
Mm.
uh, breaking a record is not a personal achievement for me. You
Right.
know, having a record like having a 10 record, it is the same for one person. Okay, being a record breaker, it is, yeah, one thing to do it in your life. But I found that in what we are doing, helping
Mm.
us to motivate people, helping us to attract global media, helping us to reach millions of. Okay, one of the rides I made, the ride 29, the BR value for this ride estimated for $3 million. Okay, $3 million. You can imagine how
Sorry,
the
the what
media cover
value?
the BR value.
What is that? What does that mean?
BR, public relations.
Oh,
Okay,
right. Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Imagine that you have a $3 million and you need to spend it to raise awareness about specific cause, to raise awareness or to promote for a specific cause. You will have
Mm.
the same impact.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's why I involve breaking Guinness records during my activities to secure media coverage for the cause, to raise awareness for more people, to reach more people, and to motivate people.
Mm.
And having something certified is more convenient for people to take action, Like I can go tomorrow morning, say, guys, I did 2,000 kilometers on my electric motorcycle. It is amazing. Use it. Okay, anyone can do that. So, right? But
Yeah.
having that certified by Guinness, which is a very, very sophisticated process, long process,
Really.
is, I believe it is a good way to convince people that it is real,
Yeah.
And by the way, the process of to have a Guinness record, it's a process of like I call it like having an MBA. It's a process of 6 months.
Is it that
Provide
hard?
6 months, yes. It's a
Wow.
process of 6 months. You need to provide a proposal about what you are doing and how you will doing and why you are doing it. And after that, if you received the acceptance for your attempt, you will receive a bunch of documents that you need to study and to understand. One of them is about the rules and the guidelines, what you need to do and what you can't do during your attempt. Guidelines for the vehicle you are using, for how documenting everything and how to sort everything. This include witnesses from every city you visit, a video for every for everything you do, pictures documenting everything. It's a huge file, you know?
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. And but it deserves,
especially for
you
an
know?
introvert.
Yeah. And a lot of people asking me how much you got paid for each Guinness record you receive. It is a good opportunity to say that Guinness doesn't pay anything for anybody, for anyone.
Wait, what?
It
Yeah,
doesn't
I think
pay.
so. Yeah,
Yeah,
I,
yeah, yeah.
I think they give you like medals or
They give you a certificate.
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
certificates or yeah.
All right. Okay. I thought they
Yeah.
give you like a little. Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
You first?
like
All right. There we go.
2020 hosted COP27. So at this moment, I try to support Egypt and promote COP and promote why we are hosting such important and why climate change topic is important for us as Egyptian people.
Yeah.
So at this ride, I rode my motorcycle for 13,000 kilometers in 30 days. 13,000,
13,000 kilometers.
yeah,
Wow.
in 30 days. And in this ride, I broke two Guinness records: world longest journey on electric motorcycle and longest journey on electric motorcycle in single country.
Mhm.
During these
Wow.
30 days, I visited all Egyptian cities from border to border. And at the end of the ride during COP27, I have been recognized by His Excellency, the President of Egypt. And it was a great success story in COP27. People to use sustainable transportations, that you need to change your mind and they try new solutions. And the ride was not only about riding a motorcycle, there was a greater cause behind the ride. In each city we visited a school and we visited a university, talking to people about what's climate change, what's important for us, what you can do, how you can help us to tackle this issue, and what is your rights here in this issue. In addition to that, in many places, we had a documentary for this ride highlighting the impact of climate change on different sectors, like the impact of climate change on agriculture, the impact of climate change on particular areas. And also, we covered some of success stories like the national projects in Egypt for clean energy, like the larger solar stations. It's called the Bimban, and the wind
The solar
farms.
plant.
Yeah, we are trying to show people what is the solution, what we are doing to tackle this issue, and what we need from you to support these issues. Highlighting the concept of green jobs, which was a little bit nearly new at this moment, letting young people know there is a new careers, there is a new areas that you need to try or to explore. And you can find the documentary on YouTube. It is called The Ride to COP27. It is a 20-minute documentary or something like that. So the ride to COP27 was a great success story for me and for climate action in the region, as a lot of people were involved. We had a support from the government, from UN organizations, USAID, civil society, educational institutes.
Yeah.
It was amazing in Egypt. Based on that, we announced the right to COP29 in the United Arab Emirates. So I rode my motorcycle from Egypt to Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE. Ended up in UAE, where COP29 was hosted. Breaking one Guinness record only, unfortunately.
Wait, was that the Baku one is COP29 or COP28?
Baku is 29.
Oh, 29.
Baku is
Okay.
29, Dubai
Yeah.
would be 8. So Egypt
28. Okay,
27,
right.
Dubai 28, Baku 29, Brazil 30.
20,
The
30.
coming
Okay, cool.
yeah.
So now you are where? You are in the UAE?
No, actually, we are in Azerbaijan. We should arrive back
Ah,
in 2, 3 days, something like that. Yes.
oh,
That is the
okay.
third ride.
And then the
That's
event starts on,
11
yeah.
to
So
11.
I'm very curious about like examples of people on the way, both in your like, you're cycling in Egypt and cycling to Baku. Like, are there any
Was it cycling or motorcycle? Or motorbike, sorry.
Actually, this ride, this is the only year, is the first year to use an electric bike. And this electric bike is made in Ghana.
Oh,
Ah, it's a
wow.
Ghanaian electric bike.
Actually, I was
Yeah.
going to. Okay, no, Zenk, you can go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, for me, I want to know like examples of average ordinary people, not NGOs, not CSOs. It's like ordinary people who had no idea of like climate change and are just like, oh, okay, I think I understand and I appreciate. Because I just want to like if you can explain to us why the ordinary person should really care about, because you talk about when people talk about sustainability and climate change, they see windmills, they see solar plants, and it looks all nice and modern. But like if I am a charcoal seller, right? If I'm selling charcoal somewhere in Ghana, for example, why should I care? Because I'm making money, you know what I mean? And maybe your examples from Egypt are even better because of the Nile and the dependency on the Nile and the issues of climate change affecting the Nile as well. So yeah, just if you have any examples, that would be really insightful, I think.
I have a lot of examples, actually.
Yeah.
Traveling on wheels make you well connected with people as you stop every 1 hour, every 30 minutes, 40 minutes. So you get a chance to communicate with people on the ground, the shop on the road, the gas station. You got a chance to communicate during the whole day. Actually, the last ride, it changed a lot of concepts on my side. I had a belief that everyone should be a part of climate change efforts. I had a belief that everyone can be the solution by starting with something small. But during this ride, I found that a lot of people are victim for climate change. They are vulnerable, and we don't have the right to ask them to help us to tackle the climate change issue. Why? A lot of people I met, they don't have a car, they don't have an EC, they don't fly. Okay, a lot of I'm talking here about vulnerable communities. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
found that it is not the right decision to involve these people in tackling climate change, but we need to support these people to adapt with climate change.
Mhm.
Most of the shops I visited on the road don't have an AC. Imagine
Yeah.
that
In
in
Egypt.
not only in Egypt, in GCC. Imagine that the temperature in October is 45. In October, it's 45, and
Wow.
a shop on the road don't have an AC. Imagine that because he can't afford it. How I can ask such person to help us to tackle climate change? You don't have a car. A lot of people riding bicycles in rural areas and vulnerable communities. They don't have a cars. They don't have an EC. They don't fly it. Okay, so these people need support. Okay, support is it's meant to help them to adapt with the impact of climate change, and we need to be more focused on communities behind the climate change, communities producing emissions, communities having 2, 3, 4 cars for each family, flying 10, 20 times every year. These people that we need to target. You got my point? يعني, actually, the last ride or the current ride, it changed a lot of my thoughts. I met people already suffering from climate change. He is already suffering. He was not a part and he will not be a part. He is a very simple person riding a bike from home to his job, and his job doesn't have an EC. His home doesn't have an EC. I believe these people need to issue carbon credits or something like that, like what we are doing with companies.
Yeah. Is that
And
carbon finance situation?
yes, so I believe we need to be more focused on communities with economical capabilities to tackle this. People already generating emissions, people who are generating waste, people who are generating plastic. You got my point?
Mm.
And actually, I'm still thinking about that after this ride, how the next ride would be. Yani, I need to be more focused on creating solutions and uh, encouraging people to adapt solutions or to use solutions, as I found that not everyone meant to be aware about climate change. Maybe he need to be aware just to understand what is going on around him, as he is already in risk. He is not a cause, he is not a reason for he is not a part of the problem. He is not a cause. You got my point, but he
Yeah.
deserved to know his rights just to be prepared for the worst. As you see, during 2024, we have a floods, we have many events caused a lot, thousands of deaths related to climate change. Most of people lost their life in these disasters was poor people, was vulnerable communities. You got
Mm.
my point? So I believe we need to protect these people. We need to educate them how to adapt with the current crisis. We need to educate them how to adapt with the different impacts from climate change, even if it is heat increase or high sea level increase or whatever. And we need to
Mhm.
build or advocate for more solutions. We need to provide affordable solutions for these communities, and we need to work with communities who are behind the climate change, businesses behind the climate change, is to find a solution. That's my
Uh,
But
point
but
of
uh,
sorry, Nathan.
no problem.
Last question before we would have to. Yeah. Anyway, let me ask you a question before come back again. You're being very diplomatic. We need a solution. Vulnerable communities. I want to know like who these communities are and how are they actually receptive when someone comes, like, someone, let's say, from with a particular level of privilege, like me, you, Nathan, and comes and says, "Oh, do you know about climate change? And actually, I'm a vegan, and life is like this, and this is how we should be. When I've got my goat, I've got my sheep, and I'm about to slaughter it. I've got my charcoal. Maybe one of my broken cars runs on oil. How receptive are people to this message, especially those who are not in these positions where they can be exposed to discussions like sustainability and a lot of these big buzzwords that can be a bit, dizzying to, you know.
Let me give you an example, okay? From two countries very close to each other. The difference between Oman and between UAE, okay? First of all, after visiting Oman, I become a big fan of Oman. Actually, it is the first country in my life I visit that leaves sustainable development in real means. Sustainable development doesn't mean that we need to have towers, that we need to have a 1 terabit internet per second. That doesn't mean that we
Mhm.
need to ride electric cars all over the city. That's not sustainable development. Sustainable development means that we need to use what we need from this earth and to conserve what is remaining on it. And that is what's happening in Oman. In Oman, you can't find a building more than 3 floors. Some few buildings are 7 floors, but it is like an international hotels or something like that. It is very common to find an old car running on the streets. Not very old, but 2010, 2015, something like that. And you don't see that people are chasing each other to show the level of lifestyle they have. The,
Lamborghinis and stuff.
yeah, these people are living in peace. They understand the true meaning and the real value of sustainable development. On the other side, I wasn't in UAE, and personally, I experienced a lot of differentiation even between people. In Oman, if I stopped over the side of the road to take a break, I found that everyone stopped asking about me. If you need anything, if you need support. And when I had a flat tire, people stayed with me for 3 hours to fix this issue, and they made sure that I'm already on the road again. There is a human connection, you know. It is not about only the culture or the habits. There is a human connection. They value the human, whatever your nationality, your color, whatever you are doing, you are a human for them, and there is a lot of respect. You know, you feel that these people is respecting everything, respecting the life, respecting the resources, respecting people, and they are very keen on everything. On the other side, in larger cities like Dubai, I have been stuck in specific point for 1 hour trying to cross the street and no one tried to stop to me. Everyone is in rush.
Wow.
You feel in these countries that the life it is a war. Who will win and who will lose?
Mm.
And in Saudi Arabia, things are very, very different. You know, Saudi Arabia is a very large country, but you will find a huge cities on the middle of the desert with high buildings, exotic cars, a lot of emissions, a lot of ECs working 24 hours. So I believe, you know, I'm trying to be diplomatic, you know. But to be honest with you, we need to count communities who are creating emission businesses who don't understand the value of the earth where we are living, the value of what they are doing. They're keen only about the net profits, the income, how we will look better against other communities or other countries. I believe that countries is competing each other and increasing the GDP. So
Yeah.
what is your benefits from GDP if you lost lands, if you lost lives, if you lost your future? What's in it for the country and what's in it for the people in this country? Yeah, as I end, I'm in love with Oman, you know? Yeah, and actually, it was a great experience for me. The people, the lands, the regulations, the laws, how they deal with each other, how they deal with the nature, with the resources, with everything. By the way, Oman is really a big country they already have a lot of oil and gas resources, you know. They can consume all the gas and oil from their land and building the highest tower on the world, and they can do whatever they want. But the mindset here is the difference between nations. Most of other nations, I found that they are competing each other. I will build the largest city, and I will build the largest tower, and I will do blah blah. Everything
Hmm.
is about the competition, not the life.
Yeah.
You get the point?
Yeah.
That's it. And I try to be political, but
Yeah. I mean,
You're trying to be diplomatic. You've already said Dubai is not much of a community place, so I think that I think you've already yeah.
the sad thing is, yani, I found a lot of people already impacted, you know. Most of poor people already impacted by climate change, and yeah, and they are not targeted by climate change efforts, development initiatives, funds. They are not a target. You got my point? They are not even on the target. Not to mention, if they are a target and we couldn't reach them, they are not even a target. So I found a lot of nice words, buzzwords, but on the ground, I found things are really different. You know, when it comes to Africa, you know, the economical situation is much worse than other countries I visited. So I believe in Africa, the situation is very different, and Africa is badly impacted by climate change, you know. So as an African youth, I believe we will need to connect together and to work together, creating things for our region, starting from building sustainable transportation to use our resources, building the capacity of youth with the needed resources, use the funds from different countries well in something for people on the ground. You know, I have been working in development sector for many years. I found a lot of projects. It is like a buzz. It is like for social media, we did blah 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 for press releases, you know. I believe, yeah, the world or some communities started to be mature about such activities, which you can put it under the umbrella of green only about products that we will reduce our emissions X% by 23. What is your plan? Okay, I don't see a plan.
Yeah.
Okay, what you will do, how you will achieve that. That's my main concern.
Yeah, no, I think when you're mentioning some of the things in your answer, it seems like you're focusing a lot on um there's a part where you seem to be talking about people a lot. Seem to be focusing a lot on people, which
Yeah.
is something that I tend not to hear from certain uh I should call it voices from climate activists. Because I generally I haven't necessarily read enough, I think, to necessarily have an opinion on the whole climate change issue. However, there are some concerns in my opinion, which is maybe you can correct me in my thinking, which is um I tend to see generally like with the when it comes to this climate the climate issue, it seems to me that generally from my understanding climate change seems to focus on the economical, the social, and the environmental, right? And from my opinion, particularly when it comes to there seems to be a giant push for electric vehicles. However, at the same time, there's neg uh, I think people have neglected, uh, where those resources actually come from. So, like, areas like Congo and
Yeah.
other countries. Yeah, exactly. And
Zambia,
Zambia as well. So, like, but there seems to be a
extractive copper. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. You seem to neglect these sorts of issues. Whereas I do believe that, yes, for sure, we definitely need to be better with our environment and how we take care of this planet, and it has to be a more sustainable because we need to make sure that the future generations have uh, resources. But also at the same time, you have this negative. I don't know if I can call it a negative. Yeah, I guess a negative impact from what we're doing. So, am I wrong in my thinking, or do you think it's possible for um climate, climate activists or climate change to sort of have this win-win-win situation?
Okay, first of all, I just need to tell you that I am climate actionist, not activist.
Oh, I love
Okay,
it, love it, love it.
we
Yeah,
need
yeah.
people taking actions. Okay,
Mhm.
the people already have an activists about many topics. It's okay to raise awareness. It's okay to make a noise around specific cause, but at this moment, I believe 90% of people on this planet know what is climate change and what we need to tackle this critical issue. When it comes to resources and when it comes to solutions, let me tell you that having everyone riding an electric car will not solve this issue. Okay, there is a cost of emissions coming with each electric car, from mining to manufacturing to transportation to XYZ. Okay, so I believe we need to start with the main emissions distributors, which they are very known for everyone, and they are refusing to convince about this issue as reducing emissions will impact their GDP and will impact their power on the world. So I believe the first solution and the most important solution to tackle this issue on this planet is peace. Okay, is peace, is love, is understanding, and I'm really honest about that. I have seen many stories on the ground. Over the past 3 years, I have been riding from a cop to cop. And recently, I remember an article I published on LinkedIn about the impact of armed conflict on climate change.
Hmm.
Recently, the war of Gaza or only uh, had an emissions of a small country. A small war on a small country reduced an emission for one country over a year. Do you know how many armed conflict situation on Earth right now?
No.
Over 100 armed conflict.
Wow.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah, that's quite sad. Yeah.
Yes, yes, that's crazy. So I believe humanity need more than traditional solutions, need more than a conference to announce commitments and the strategies to be done over the next 15 years. If they need to solve these issues, they need to take real actions, you know.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how they can do that, you know. It was
yeah,
an issue very complicated. You can't convince these and we need to work together. But I believe in
yeah.
some cases, يعني, they will see the impact.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point you mentioned about conflict. Uh, like we especially look at Africa and the Sahel region, the Sahel belt. You see a lot of conflicts that are linked to or being exacerbated by, water scarcity, by farmer-herder relations, and you see that a lot with Boko Haram in that belt of the Sahel. You see that in Central
In
African
Sudan,
Republic,
for
Sudan, of
example.
course. Yeah,
Yeah.
Sudan has this. Yeah, all of this, and then it also conflates into a migration issue.
I believe
And
Africa is a winner when it comes to counting the armed conflicts.
yeah, I mean, seem to always be racking up the for this. But yeah, so and then but you say it's so interrelated because you have that situation, and then you have I always use the example of, let's say, I sell tomatoes in Burkina Faso, and then maybe imported tomatoes are cheaper, and then there's a lower rainfall, and I can't produce as many tomatoes. And then I'm recruited by a terrorist organization because I need to make money. Because terrorists are paid, like actual individual terrorists, they have a salary, right? Boko
Yeah.
Haram have salaries, Al-Shabaab have salaries. And so if I see that there's no rainfall and I can't make money by selling tomatoes, and the tomatoes that are imported to my country killing my business,
I
I'll
can
go,
judge
I'll
you
join
that.
it.
I
Yeah.
can judge
And then,
you. You're a human at the end. You need to eat, you need to drink, you
yeah,
had a family, you need
yeah.
to support.
Yeah, you either join a terrorist organization or you say, okay, since I'm young, I'm a man, I'm in my 20s, let me go to Europe and I'll go through
Yes,
Libya. I might be
yes.
traded on the human trafficking market there. Maybe I'll end up in Italy, but that process will be that's climate change has a role in that. So I think it's very, very interesting that you brought that up. But I think one question also is one thing we hear a lot, especially from African leaders, like William Ruto, who's sort of posturing himself as a climate, green revolution type of president, is the issue about the unfairness. I think it's called common but differentiated responsibilities. Basically, the idea that Africa has not contributed that much to
Africa doesn't
everything,
contribute to
climate
climate
change.
change. You know, we are
And yet,
not. We
yeah,
did
and yet, yeah,
it. We
and
did
yet
it.
somehow, we have the biggest examples of the
Yes.
negative effects of
But
climate
we are the
change.
most continent impacted by climate change and affected by
Mm,
climate change due to the economical situation. If the temperature raised, I don't have an AC to help me to adapt with the current temperature rates. I don't
mm,
have a stove or enough clothes or a
mm.
sufficient home to protect me from the cold. You
Yeah,
got my point? It is the
yeah,
most impacted continent on climate change due many situations, but actually it is the most impacted and the less content contributing to climate change.
yeah. Even in Zambia and Zimbabwe, there's a full-blown electricity crisis. We're talking about 17 hours of no electricity because of overdependence on hydro
Yeah.
electricity and water
We had
levels.
something like that in Egypt, by the way, during the
Yeah.
past months, we had to cut the electricity during the summer. They had to cut
Mm.
the electricity 2 hours every day to they don't have enough petrol to run the electricity stations. You can imagine that. And I believe at some stage we will not be able to fix the climate changes. Like this year, I believe it was the hottest year, 2024 by NASA. It is the hottest year. Means that we will need to use more fuel to run EHCs or to adapt with the current temperature rates, which will lead to
Rack up.
much
Mhm.
more increase. It is like
Yeah.
an so I believe it is the time for the world to agree that we are facing the most important challenge in humanity history.
So in terms of what people should do, but first on like a continental level, how should Africa respond to this sort of unfairness? I've heard of people talking about carbon financing. What does that mean? Or like carbon reparations. I don't understand what
Yeah.
that means. Maybe if you can like explain.
Actually,
Those are the suggestions. I don't know. Yeah.
in simple words, carbon financing or carbon emissions or carbon markets or whatever, like if you have like a solar panel, like a solar station producing 1 mega of clean energy, means that you saved the needed fuel to produce this 1 mega electricity, right?
Okay.
If you produced 1 mega of electricity from a solar station, means that you saved the petrol needed to produce it from regular electricity stations, right?
Yeah.
So you deserve an incentives for doing that.
Oh,
Okay. Here
yeah.
it comes a carbon markets and carbon credits and so on. But it is a very sophisticated process. It doesn't mean that, guys, I have a solar station, I need incentives, it need to be certified, it need to be audited, go through a very long process just so to have an accreditation to sell your carbon credits. If you got certified, means you have a credit to sell for someone who is creating emissions. Like
Oh, I see.
at the end of the year, I need to announce that I am carbon neutral or I am zero emissions for a company producing whatever products. You can do that by different methods. The first one is to update your infrastructure, revise your operations methodology, doing many things, which could cost some money on the short term, but on the long term, it will
More
you will
sustainable.
benefit from it, yeah, and more sustainable. Some countries, just to say that we are carbon neutral, we didn't produced any carbon during this year. They go to people with carbon credits and buy carbon credits from them. It's called offsettings.
Okay.
I give you that check and you give me the money.
All right. Okay. Okay. That makes sense.
I will burn 1,000 ton of petrol this year, and at the end of the year, I will go to buy carbon credits, and I will announce that I didn't created any emissions to the world.
Mm. And then on the reparations, the sort of unfairness, this whole
You got
back
me.
and forth.
Paris Agreement mentions this part, and there is a lot of lines of this agreement need to be adjusted as it is unfair for the
Especially big coal producers.
country and building a project for himself. You got my point? It is
Yeah.
something like he is renting a piece of land on your country and building a project for himself, and your country will be paying for him to build.
Hmm.
You got the point?
Hmm.
There is no fairness. There is no fairness here. And that's why the carbon financing part is very complicated and still need a lot of work to make it more fair for developing countries. Like, I can go to build 1,000 hectare of mangrove on the Red Sea in Egypt, for example. This will help the community and will conserve the biodiversity on this land. But at the end, if I need this project to be certified, as a country, I need to I need to pay for this emissions. I need to pay other incentives for this emissions. Like, I am an investor with $1 million. I will buy land on your country and I will have my mangrove built it. But you, as a country, taking the liability. You are counted for the liability of the project and the carbon emissions.
You
It's a
bear the
very
cost.
complicated process, but at the end, it is not fair for developing countries.
So yeah, no, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure I would expect to see a lot of disagreement in this COP29, especially considering America elected a president who pulled out of the climate change agreement. Uh, yeah,
Another example for North Africa, for example.
sure.
A lot of European countries saying that we will achieve 2030 with zero emissions. We will not use oil and gas, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what you are doing is building a clean energy projects in North Africa, or he is moving his gas-powered or petrol-powered electricity stations to North Africa, and he got an electricity from him. So I'm not creating emissions. I'm not producing emissions. I'm
I think I've seen
just
something like that
taking
in Morocco.
electricity. It is not my on my land.
Hmm.
Yeah, I believe so. So it is, and I believe people need to be honest about the solutions. People need to understand It is not a game. It is not a show. It is not a post on Facebook or LinkedIn says that I'm carbon free or I reduced my emissions by X or Y. It is
Yeah.
people life.
No, that's very true. I think I think outside of Africa, there's some islands that are afraid of being like completely wiped out, like because of, like every single year, like they see like land, being eaten up.
Yeah.
ETs.
Yeah, yeah.
It is something already happening. It will not happen in the future. It is already happening and happening from some years. I mean, can tell that we lost a lot of lands. It is under the sea right now.
Hmm. Yeah, no, definitely right. I think for me personally, I really think I really enjoy the fact that you emphasize the role that loving and caring for one another really has, even in this fight, and also calling yourself a climate actionist is definitely something that I think people should carry as well. But I guess
Yeah.
as we round up, what would be your message to the African youth listening to this, um, who maybe can feel like what role do I have and what impact can I have uh in this battle? Like, is it even worth it? And yeah, what can I do? So yeah, what would be your message to us as young people?
Okay. Personally, my message for everyone that you need to learn. You need to learn about yourself. You need to learn about your country, your history, and what is going on around the world. At this moment, you will realize what you can do. Not everyone meant to work on climate change. Not everyone meant to work in education. You should contribute in something that you feel yourself in. No, you should contribute in something you believe in. But at the end, there is a value that you need to add to this world.
Oh, that's a great way to end the podcast, I think.
Thank
That's a
you.
really
Yeah.
great way
Yeah.
to end the podcast. Yeah. So yeah, thanks again for joining us, Ali. It was a pleasure having this conversation with you. And also you've really done quite a lot. Like really, like your achievements are really
Seven Guinness World Records.
yeah, your achievements are really motivational. And yeah, so on behalf of the entire people that listen to this podcast, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to our listeners as well.
Thank you.
I am an African.